Shri Hare Namaha. We shall begin with today's session now. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Paramagurubhyo Namaha, Shri Adigurubhyo Namaha, Shri Mula Gurubhyo Namaha, Shrimad Ananda Tirtha Bhagat Padacharyabhyo Namaha, Shri Vedavyasaya Namaha, Shri Bharate Namaha, Shri Saraswate Namaha, Shri Vayave Namaha, Shri Brahmane Namaha, Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha, Shri Narayanaya Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Krishnaya Namaha, Mokshaprada Shri Vasudevaya Namaha, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Hare Paramatmane Pranatakleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Grantamutirayat. Narayanam Surabram Jagadekanatham Bhakta Priyam Sakala Loka Namaskritam Cha Traiguna Varjitam Ajamivamadiamisham Vande Bhavagnam Amarasura Siddha Vandyam. Avikaraya Shuddhaya Nityaya Paramatmane Sadeka Rupa Rupaya Vishnave Sarvajishnave Namo Hiranya Garbhaya Haraya Shankaraya Cha Vasudevaya Taraya Sargastityantakarane Ekaneka Swarupaya Sthula Sukshmatmane Namaha Avyakta Vyakta Rupaya Vishnave Mukti Hetave Sargasthiti Vinashanam Jagatosya Jaganmaya Moolabhuto Namastasmai Vishnave Paramatmane. So are there any queries from the sessions conducted so far?
Yeah, I have one question from our yesterday's discussion. So, as mentioned yesterday, so all the jivas in this kalpas were, all the jivas in this kalpa were previously unmanifested, right? In the previous kalpas, if I get it correctly.
Not kalpa exactly, during the previous tenure of the previous Brahmadeva.
Yeah, previous Brahmadeva, correct. So previous Brahma kalpa. So they were all unmanifested, right?
Yes.
So if they were all unmanifested, how is karma anadi? Because if they're unmanifested, they won't be able to perform any karma, right?
I think we had explained this already in one of the previous sessions also. So in case you haven't checked the recordings of that, so basically karma here is not the actions which are done with the physical body, but they are mental mainly. The thought processes of the jivas and what they think and what they do, what they want to do, basically.
Okay.
That is based on their swabhava primarily.
So when they're unmanifested based on their swabhava, they think, and that is karma.
Yes, because even thoughts can be said to be actions, though it may not cause any result or anything, but still, I mean, there will be no direct result, but again, they do have effects. So even thinking and mental thoughts are also said to be karmas only.
Okay. So basically, they're not sleeping. We can't call them all the jivas that are sleeping. They're just rested in a rested phase.
Say they're in a semi-conscious state.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
So a couple of announcements. So Guruji won't be joining today's session, as we have stated in the group also, because he is traveling today. So he will be joining the next session next week, and today's session will be continued as usual though. And we have also shared the link for the first quiz for this course, and everyone is expected to submit their responses. The content and the questions are based on the same content which was covered in all these sessions so far, and we have written most of it in our translation of the Vishnu Purana 6th Amsha also, so we have mentioned that. And also there was a small mistake. The units of time are from the first chapter, not the third chapter exactly. The third chapter partially repeats some of them, but it is actually from page 16 of our book. So there you can find the mention of the units of time, and along with that, the main portions are from the 5th, 6th, and 7th adhyayas. So one can refer to those for those before attempting the quiz. And for now, there will be only one response per user, which we have allowed on Google Forms. And after that, if the score is not satisfactory, then those who are interested can retake the quizzes. So there will be 3 more quizzes like this, and the link will be available for 5 days till this Friday. So any queries with regard to the quiz?
Brother, those slides which I forwarded, for units of time. Are question from that only or from the chapter?
It's just we have included only a couple of questions, and that is from the explanation given on page 16. That's all. Just the units of time and what they are. Nothing more than that.
Okay, means the slides which I forwarded, which you taught in the 10th lecture.
Yeah.
Those only, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, that only. Is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really the avatar of Krishna? I find many Gaudiyas claiming to be so in the internet by quoting verses of Vishnu Sahasranama, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavata. It is false interpretation, isn't it? Continued further, if my understanding is correct, there many interpretation goes against Shastras. Is the above topic already refuted? If the above topic is already discussed in the earlier sessions, you can skip the question. So I think I have not elaborately mentioned this, but again, the belief that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or any philosopher being the avatar of a Devata or Bhagwan is limited to their respective sampradayas and cannot be accepted by any other sampradayas. So we will obviously not accept such a belief because that will contradict the fact that we consider our Siddhanta to be the best and to be in accordance with what Bhagwan himself has preached. So same is the case with them. And as far as those Shastra Vakyas are concerned, we also reject their interpretation of the Shastras, and especially the certain Pramanas are not really used as proofs by the traditional Gaudiyas also, because some of these have been actually made up by few people on the internet. So few of them are having flawed interpretations as well. So nonetheless, whatever be it, no other sampradaya other than the Gaudiya sampradaya accepts the belief that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Bhagwan. I hope that makes it clear. Any other queries?
So, brother, the Hare Krishna Mantra given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Shodakshari mantra. If we chant Hare Krishna mantra instead of Shodakshari mantra, then will it give us benefit?
Both are the same thing. The actual name of the mantra is Shodasha Akshari mantra because it has Shodasha Aksharas, that is 16 letters.
Yes, so instead of Hare Rama, if we start from Hare Krishna, then is
That
it?
doesn't matter because that is a small variation, that's all. And that is anyway Harinama, so Bhagavad Nama does not have any restrictions like that unless it's a Veda mantra.
Okay, brother. And like before starting Hare Krishna mantra, we chant that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that mantra. Instead of that, what should we chant in Tattvavaada?
We will usually chant the Guru mantra only. Like I or Guruji will usually do during the sessions also.
Okay, brother.
All these are given in our Tattvavadi handbook on our website also. All the prayers which are required also. You can find them on our website itself.
Okay, brother. Thank you.
Also, brother, the mantra, Hare Krishna mantra, is actually reversed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? It starts with Hare Rama, then Hare Krishna. So, does it have any effect? Like, does it remove the potency of the mantra if we reverse uh, the
See, as
mantra?
I said, that is Harinama. It's not a Veda mantra, so there is no specific protocol of chanting it except for that the person should have bhakti and should have received upadesha of the mantra from a guru, and also the person should practice internal and external cleanliness and other things such as the yamas, niyamas, and other protocols for proper benefits. Other than that, there is no other protocol. So it will work either way because it's anyway it's a shloka given in the shastras only. It's not a Veda mantra actually. So it actually doesn't have any restrictions as such, but the original one given in the Puranas is starting from Hare Rama first. So we chant that only. Though there are some Madhvas also who, under the influence of Gaudiyas, chant it with Hare Krishna first, but we consider it like that because that is what is given in the authentic Shastras which we have. And Gaudiyas, they have a different view on that, but we go with this one. And ultimately, that doesn't matter as long as it is done properly with bhakti, because this is Harinama again, that doesn't have any restrictions. Does that
Okay,
make
got
it clear?
Yeah. And also wanted to ask that, usually Gaudiyas and ISKCON, they claim that they are part of the Brahma Madhva Sampradaya. But do Madhvas accept this claim?
Not really. It's a disputed topic, as we've mentioned previously also. At the most, it could be possible that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu belongs to the same Guru Parampara, though that is also disputed because among Gaudiyas only there is difference of opinion on this matter actually. So we have not bothered to study much about that because in the end, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy is totally different from Tattvavaada and also from the Smarta philosophy. So though he took sannyasa from a Mayavadi and he also is said to have received mantropadesha from a Madhva, it doesn't matter because their Siddhanta is totally separate from ours. So in the end, their philosophy is different and our philosophy is also different, though there are similarities because being Vaishnava Sampradayas, there are multiple similarities, but again, in certain key beliefs, there are again variations. So that is clear if you read the works of the Goswamis or even the Brahma Sutra Bhashyas of the Gaudiyas.
So was Madhavendra Puri, who was the sort of grand guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was he actually a Madhva guru?
It is possible. There's a possibility of that, but because he was not a very prominent Madhva as per what we are aware of, because his name is not mentioned as being a prominent Madhva of those times, and more so because his influence wasn't there much in the south or in debates with the more reputed scholars of other sampradayas. So it's a possibility, though there are no explicit mentions of a person by that name.
Yes, understood. Thank you.
So Harinama is to be received from the Guru physically because many of the Dasarapada directly ask people to take Harinama. So for certain procedures such as japa and performing dhyana of Bhagwan, you need to receive upadesha of that mantra from a Guru. But if otherwise for just simple chanting, you do not need any upadesha as such. For example, for chanting stotras like the Vishnu Sahasranama or other similar prayers you will come across in the Shastras, usually Upadesha is not required. And for simple chanting or singing it like as in bhajans, it's not at all required. Upadesha is not needed there, but for performing japa and to achieve the maximum benefits of that, Upadesha is mandatory. So without Upadesha, one cannot perform japa of a mantra. So we've again written all of this in our Vaishnava handbook, which you can find on our e-library.
Vrata, one question related to Madhvacharya's history that I heard this, but I want to confirm with you whether Madhvacharya took initiation from Advait Guru.
His guru was actually, his Diksha guru was Achyuta Prajna Tirtha. So Achyuta Prajna Tirtha belonged to the one particular sampradaya, which who were actually Pancharatrikas, who were Vaishnavas only, and they were Dvaitavadis. But in between, due to certain death threats from a few followers of Shankaracharya and due to their growing influence, they were forced to convert to the Smarta Sampradaya and become Mayavadis. But they were not actual followers of Mayavada as such. And in between, they still maintained their the additional rituals of the Pancharatra Darshana which they practiced. So they still maintained their identity as both Pancharatrikas and Smartas, but philosophically they were following the Smarta philosophy. And later on, Achyuta Prajna Tirtha's guru, I think his name was Prajna Tirtha, he stated that he had lost faith in Advaita and the Smarta philosophy. So after that, Achyuta Prajna later was not truly a practicing Smarta, but finally, when Madhvacharya came and became his disciple, he got into disputes with him, and finally he logically refuted the Advaita philosophy completely with proper proofs from the Shastras, and he convinced his guru too that it is actually the philosophy of Tattvavaada which is correct. So because of that, even Achyuta Prajna Tirtha later converted to from the Smarta Sampradaya to he properly became a Pancharatrika and a Tattvavadi. Hope that makes it clear.
Okay, yes. Is Achyut Pragna Swami and Achyut Preksha, they are both same?
Yes, his actual name was Achyuta Prajna, but many people have wrongly popularized him by the name Achyuta Preksha. The commonly used title in the Madhva Sampradaya was Prajna. So because of that, even Madhvacharya's original name was Purna Prajna or Ananda Tirtha. So that was how he was named when he took up sannyasa. Actually, that's what was stated by Sri Bannanjay Govindacharya in one of his discourses.
Okay, thank you, brother.
Is it correct that in our scriptures the sun and all other planets revolve around the earth? No, that is not true, because in the Bhagavata Purana and in the Rigveda Samhita also there are references stating that the planets are held by the sun in his control, just like horses are held by its trainer. So the analogy is also perfectly implying that the planets revolve around the sun, and the Shastras are very clear on that. So there is no room for doubt on this matter also. Any further queries?
Bhrata, I have a question. Are the terms Rakshasas, Asuras, Danavas, Daityas, are they to be taken as synonyms, or is there a difference between them? And also, like while reading the Valmiki Ramayanam, I find that there is a variety in the Rakshasas. Like in some Rakshasas are described as Pishitashanaha, and some of them are not so. For example, Vibhishana and his mantris, they are found to be little different. I mean, not little, much different. So, who are these Rakshasas? Can you explain? Can you elaborate?
Okay, so actually the term Asura as such is a very general term. So what it means is that it refers to the Tamasika Jivas in general, and among the human beings, those who are Tamasikas are said to be Asura-like human beings. So among them, there are different categories such as Danavas, Pishachis, and so many, because they are, if I remember correctly, differentiated on the basis of the lokas in which they reside and the extent of which they are capable of causing harm to other beings. So more than that, there is not much of a difference. And when it comes to people like Vibhishana or Prahlada and Bali and so many of them who were different from the behavior, who had different behavior than the other asuras, it was because by Swabhava they were not asuras. So in a few of the previous sessions also we had mentioned this. Same was the case with the people like Kamsa, Putana, because they had the Avesha of a Devata and an Asura also. But in cases like Prahlada, Bali and others, the issue was that they were actually Devatas by Swabhava. So their Atma was of a Devata, but they were born in the Asura Kula due to some curse or some defect in their previous life. So that's why, because Prahlada's actual form was as Shankukarna, who was a resident of Satyaloka. But once, because he had angered Brahmadeva, he was cursed to be born as an Asura. and in the process of that he manifested his swabhava. So by swabhava, since he was a devata and a bhakta of Vishnu, he still continued to be like that, while the asuras commonly they are natural adharmis and they're tamasika by swabhava. So because of that they do not have any bhakti in general towards Bhagwan. So they as usual showed their tamasika swabhava, but these people were actually exceptions.
So we can understand that all the people in Lanka, that is in Ravana's kingdom, were they all asuras? Can we extrapolate that thing? Were they all tamasic jivas who were born there?
Most of them were tamasika people only, and that's why most of them were killed in the process of the war between Rama's army and Ravana's army. But some of them were satvika jivas also, and that's why Vibhishana was also one among them, and that's why he and few of his supporters supported Rama, and later he became the king of Lanka.
The same is the case with, say, Mandodari, Trijata, Sarama. They were also the asuras who were there and who were supporting, especially we read about Trijata and Sarama supporting Sita, I mean, counseling her and giving her support. And Mandodari, we don't get to know much about her in the Valmiki Ramayanam, very little, but we can infer that she was also of the Satvika Swabhava, although she was the daughter of Maya Danava. That is what is described. So can we infer that she is also a Satvika Jiva like Vibhishana?
I think so. I haven't confirmed this. I think Guruji can clarify this next week when he comes here. But yes, as far as I'm aware, many of these people were exceptions and they were not actual asuras by swabhava.
Okay.
Any more queries by anyone else?
Bhrata, I had one more question on with regard to the Jivatma. Like when we say that a particular person is a Satvika Jiva, so Satvika, the quality of being the Satvika, Rajasika or Tamasika, it is based on the it's a Prakriti Datta guna, isn't it? So the Jivatma is always bound to this Prakriti Datta guna, or when we say Satvika and Rajasika and Tamasika, it's beyond Prakriti. I'm not very clear about that. Can you please explain?
Sure. So the basic concept is that every soul has its own swabhava, or its nature, which is determined by the qualities which it naturally has, free from any external influence. So when it comes to the swabhava, there are certain things called swabhavika gunas which the jiva has. So because of that, that is actually different from the prakritika satoguna, rajoguna, and tamoguna. So the influence in the material world which we have due to these three gunas is different from what the soul actually has. So what the soul has is the swabhavika gunas of either sattva guna, rajoguna, or tamoguna. So that is what determines its primary interests and preferences and what it likes or doesn't like. So given the chance, free from the external influence or free from any compulsion to do anything, what the soul chooses on its own due to its natural liking is what is swabhava. So in the case of in the Shastras, actually this is described multiple times, and in the Bhagavad Gita's 18th Adhyaya, actually there is a mention of the swabhavas and there is actually a clear-cut mention in, I think, the 18th shloka, where it is said that the karana, karma, and karta are of three types. In other words, the knowledge one has, the object of knowledge and the knower, or the instrument of action and the action and whoever does the action, the performer of the action, the karta. All these three are also of different swabhavas. So what it means is that even the kind of knowledge which one can obtain is also of different categories of swabhava, and how one obtains knowledge or how one uses that knowledge is also different. So the karta is the jiva here, but actually truly it is said that the real karta of all actions is Bhagwan, but that is a separate topic. So that will be discussed later in the subsequent sessions. So the fact is that there are three gunas of Prakriti primarily, which influence all the jivas and all the entities here. But along with that, the jivas are otherwise also naturally under the influence of their own nature. That is the qualities which determine their own true self. So those are what are known as the swabhavika gunas. So that is why there is a shloka in the Bhagavata Purana which states that in the 6th skanda actually, Shukamuni himself tells Parikshita in the context of Ajamila's case that there is no instance, nahi kaschid akarmakrit api shanairapi. So there is no possible moment also where one can be in total inactivity, because one keeps performing all sorts of actions depending upon their swabhavika gunas. So here this is different from the gunas of Prakriti. Now the gunas of Prakriti is called Prabhava. So that is different from Swabhava. But if one's swabhavika gunas keep getting manifested, because that is the actual goal for all jivas. So that is to know their true nature. And once their swabhava is manifested, they start showing more symptoms of their swabhava, and they slowly start to become unaffected by prabhava. So the prakritika gunas of sattva, rajas, and tamas, if they're not in accordance with its swabhava, for example, a sattvika jiva, as it manifests its swabhava, will start showing interest in spirituality and being open-minded and causing less harm to others. For the tamasika jivas, it is the opposite. Because in the Mahabharatas, I think the Sabhaparva itself, somewhere towards the beginning only, there is one shloka where Duryodhana himself admits why he is an adharmi. So there he says that, I am well aware of what is dharma, what is adharma, and how my actions can harm and benefit others, but I still like to perform adharma. That is what he himself says that, and he says that he knows about everything and he has understood everything correctly. So this is a case of swabhava. So this happens when one is totally free from any of the external influences. So I hope this makes it clear.
Yes. I'm getting some clarity on this. Thank you so much. But another question to this is, so the sattvika swabhava, to understand that the whatever description is given, is it similar to the sattvika gunas that we understand, the prakriti datta sattvika gunas that we understand? Are they same? Are they similar?
They are similar, but not the same exactly. Because in the 18th adhyaya of the Bhagavad Gita, in the 26th shloka onwards, there is a detailed description of the different qualities of the sattvika, rajasika, and tamasika jivas. So the sattvikas are said to be free from the attachments for their actions or the results of their actions, and they are equipoised in success and failure. But the rajasikas are somewhat like the opposite, and the tamasikas are those who are naturally prone to inactivity and those who like causing harm to others. So this is different from the prakritika sattva-guna, rajoguna, and tamoguna, but it's similar. The qualities are similar.
Okay, so the sattvika swabhava person or a sattvika swabhava jiva, if he overcomes the sattvika guna of prakriti, that itself is something like moksha. Can we understand that way?
That will lead them to the path of moksha, to be free from all the external influences and to be unaffected by that.
Okay, right.
The actual stage of being completely free from all the external influences is called aparoksha jnana or dharana. So in that state, that is attained after intense sadhana, and when one performs their duties and bhakti yoga and jnana yoga with proper perfection, at that time a person will reach that stage, and there the person's svabhava will be manifested, and if they're sattvikas, they will gain aparoksha jnana. So from then onwards, they'll be totally manifesting only the qualities of their svabhava.
Okay, Bhrata, a lot of clarity there. Okay, one last question from my side. Is there any method or anything which can tell us what kind of jiva we are? Any clue or anything that can?
So there is no guarantee on this regard. It's impossible to tell accurately as to who is what unless that person is an aparoksha jnani or is a devata. So except for them, no one else can guarantee anybody's swabhava. But through with time and with careful observation, it's possible to guess or know subsequently as to what that person's swabhava may be. So it is possible that due to prabhava of the different gunas also, one can deviate from their actual svabhava and show characteristics which are not truly of their nature. But again, usually when they're given the opportunities, they will come back to what they truly want, and they will start manifesting the qualities of their svabhava. But at a glance, it's not possible to guarantee it. So that can be seen in the case of Ajamila also. So if one sees his actions as to how he lived for most of his life, anyone would assume he was an extremely tamasika person, because the kind of papa karmas he committed was also very high. And but after that, it turned out that he was satvika, and when he almost faced the Yamadutas and was almost killed by them, he realized his mistakes, and he finally abandoned all his unwanted activities, and he finally took to bhakti seriously. So swabhava cannot be guaranteed.
Okay, so that leads us to the answer that doing bhakti to Bhagavan is the only alternative or the only path that is there in front of us.
Yes, mostly that only. Through that only one can actually know their swabhava, and slowly, especially those who are sattvikas will be naturally having a liking towards bhakti, or if they, due to other influences, if they're not that much attracted to spirituality, they will become interested and involved in spirituality. So that is one sign that the person is likely sattvika. But till that person obtains aparoksha jnana, it is not possible to guarantee it.
Okay. Okay, Bhrata. Lot of clarity. Thank you so much.
Pradnya, one question here regarding the Swabhava. So I had heard in one Pravachana that like there are 3 types of jivas in each category, like Sattvika, 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 Rajsika, Sattvika, Tamsika. Rajsika, Sattvika, Rajasika, Rajsika, and Rajsika, Tamsika. And the same in Tamsik jivas. So can you elaborate on that?
Those are actually subcategories. So among those, so the broad categorization is based on which guna is predominant in the different jivas. So along with that, among those 3 categories of Sattvika, Rajasika, and Tamasika, there are divisions again as to which jivas have the maximum amount of Sattva guna, and some which naturally have slight Rajoguna, and some which have slight Tamoguna. So manushas are usually Sattvika, Rajasika, but again, some can be Sattvika, Tamasika, in the sense they can be easily prone to being affected by tamoguna slightly, but predominantly they're still sattvika only. So on this basis, as we had discussed previously, the different atmas can be classified into 4 varnas, that is Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. So on this basis, they are said to belong to different varnas on the basis of the subcategories of those Satvika Jivas. Now this division of Varnashrama is there only among the Satvika Manushyas. It's not there among the Devatas or the Rishis. So because Varnashrama is primarily related to the Manushya Jivas, so they have this division of based on their greater predominance of the different gunas in them, the Satvika Manushyas can be classified like this. So similarly, among the Rajasikas and the Tamasikas also, depending on how much they are prone to adharma or towards Rajoguna, they are said to be having a slight, they are said to be having a secondary categorization of these 3 gunas again. But primarily their swabhava will be determined by the predominant guna in them, that is satvika, sattva guna, rajoguna or tamoguna, and that will determine their destiny.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Brata just wanted to add there that if Shantanuji knows Kannada, then there's a beautiful lecture by Bannanje Govindacharya. It's titled Swabhava Prabhava. So if you listen to that, it's a long lecture. It's in Kannada,
Okay.
but he has beautifully explained this Swabhava very nicely. If you hear it a couple of times, understandable.
Yeah, I'll do that. I understand Kannada. So can you repeat the title of the video?
Title is Swabhava Prabhava.
Okay, thank you.
And there is another lecture by him. It's called Moksha. I think it's called Moksha. The title itself is Moksha. There also he deals with this concept. And whatever
Okay.
Prajna Mahodaya explained just now, he deals with the same thing very elaborately. So if you hear it, I mean, I had to hear it a couple of times to actually understand. So,
All right.
yes.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for sharing the link, Vishnu. So yeah, those are the lectures. The issue is that most of the discourses by Bannanje Govindacharya are in Kannada, so those who are non-Kannadigas may not be able to understand them. So those who can understand Kannada are requested to refer to these, as they will also be helpful and will give a better idea of most of the concepts which we will cover in this course also. The jivas who are condemned to Nitya Naraka, do they get a chance for performing karma in the next universal creation? No, they will. They would have manifested their swabhava, and since it is clear that when they manifest all their swabhavika gunas, that they're totally tamasika people, similar to the case of sattvikas who would prove that they are sattvika and they would show their true qualities. So similarly, the destiny of either Vaikunta or Andantamas is permanent. So there is no influence of time there. So no matter how many more Brahmas come and go, in the next creation of the universe also, they will not come back. Hope that clarifies the query here. So for today's session, we shall be discussing about certain basic duties which are required for Sat Achara. So Sat Achara, or the proper conduct, as we define it in English, which is the closest translation of the term in English. So this refers to the duties which we have to practice for having proper conduct. Now, these are necessary for one's spiritual progression. So most of them are broadly said to be the yamas and niyamas, as explained in the Vishnu Purana also, the 6th Amsha, and in the 7th Adhyaya especially, which we have translated and published. but there are more in the Shastras, and these have to be also understood properly. So in the Bhagavata Purana's 7th skanda, in the 11th adhyaya, there are a few shlokas from shlokas 8 to 12, which actually explain all the duties which are common to people of all varnas. This is not something restricted to the Dvijas or Brahmanas or anything. And also, now, why are these important? Because in the Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, Sri Vishnu himself says, Shruti Smriti Mamair Ajna, which means the Shruti and the Smriti are my orders. So Bhagavan himself says that all the instructions of the Shastras are meant to be followed by his bhaktas, and anyone who doesn't follow them are not fit to be actually considered as Vaishnavas. So this is why for actually being on the path of bhakti, one has to practice these also. So in the Bhagavata Purana and multiple Dharma Shastras also, one can find the mention of most of these. So here in the Bhagavata Purana's 7th Skandas and 11th Adhyaya, there is an elaborate mention of all of them. So we shall discuss some of them today. So the first few ones are said to be Satyam, Daya, Tapa, Shaucha, and Shamo and Dama. So and there are much more. So Satyam, Daya, Tapa is these three are repeated multiple times in multiple Dharma Shastras, including the Vishnu Smriti or the Vasishta Smriti also. So Satya means honesty or being truthful. So speaking the truth without distortion or deviation is actually important. So that is one of the most basic qualities and indicates that one is a straightforward person. So a question to everyone here. So if at all speaking the truth in a situation would cause harm to people, should one still speak the truth? And if at all one does not speak the truth, will it be considered as papa or punya?
Harm in the sense, I mean, what exactly will it harm? Like, will the person die or something like that?
Yes, maybe. For example, there is a person who wants to kill someone, and he goes looking for his murder victim, and another third person knows where that victim is and the whereabouts of that person. So should he tell the murderer the truth or not when the murderer asks? Or else, if he does not tell the truth, is it going to be papa or punya for this person?
You should not tell the truth in that case. It will be punya only because he might be saving jiva, I mean a person.
I mean, if he's saving someone's life by telling the a lie, then it should be punya only, right?
Yes, so it is actually punya. And in such a case, if a person speaks the truth, it actually causes the person to incur the papa karma of being dishonest. It is actually considered as deviating from the path of honesty. So this is why proper knowledge of this is important, because in the Puranas there is a mention of the story of one Brahmana who was meditating, and some villagers came into hiding in front of him towards a small forest which was nearby, and few dacoits were searching for them, and the Brahmana, he told them the truth that the villagers were hiding there, and because of that he went to Naraka for many years. Because of his simple mistake, many people lost their lives actually. So that is why the Shastras are clear that in certain situations, not speaking the truth is actually very important, and that is considered as being on the path of Satya. So the fact is that in the Mahabharata also there is one similar mistake made by Yudhishthira, where he is said to lie to Dronacharya that Ashwatthama was dead, just so that Dronacharya would give up his life, and Dronacharya had taken to the path of adharma, because his mind was not very clear, though Dronacharya was actually the avatar of Brihaspati. So he was, it was not that he was an Ajnani or anything, but because of the prabhava of tamoguna and being in association with other mates, he could not discriminate properly what was right and wrong, and he started supporting the other mates, that is the tamasika people like the Kauravas. So because of that, it was necessary for him to be killed in the war. And since he had taken to the path of war in the battlefield, it was not any papa karma for these people also to kill him. But because they did not want to go to much violence, and since it was easy to do that, Krishna himself tells Yudhishthira that he should tell a lie that Ashwatthama was dead. Because Dronacharya trusted only Yudhishthira because of his extreme reputation of showing extreme honesty. But still, Yudhishthira nonetheless said that Ashwatthama was dead, and he mentioned the word hasta, that is elephant. At the end, he still mentioned elephant, and he because he felt guilty that he might incur the papa karma of telling a lie. But here he actually incurred that papa karma nonetheless, because he violated the proper protocol, that is to not cause harm to innocent people. And here he shouldn't have told the truth, but Krishna knew that, and that's why he blew his conch shell loudly so that Dronacharya couldn't hear him mentioning the word hasta. So because of that, Dronacharya still believed that his own son was dead. So similarly, this is why here in the Mahabharata, the Bhagavata Purana, and even the Manusmriti also, one can find a mention of a few shlokas saying that in certain contexts, such as during a wedding or during any such events, or during for the protection of brahmanas, cattle, and other important beings, or for the protection of dharma, or for the protection of one's own life, one can lie, one can be dishonest. There is no harm in that, and that is actually going to give the punya of saying the truth. Because one should say something which is both true and favorable, but one should not say what is true but unfavorable, or what is untrue but favorable also. So after Satya, the next duty for everyone is Daya. Daya is showing compassion to other beings. So this is an important quality, and is actually it is a natural guna of those who are Satvika people. So one should actually have that sense to feel for other beings. Only then can one actually benefit others, or will get the tendency to not harm others. So similarly, this is why Sri Madhvacharya says that among the four varnas, Shudras are the most important ones, because the quality of Shudratva is actually defined as Sashodati iti Shudraha. Ramanujacharya also uses this definition in his Brahmasutra Bhashya, in the chapter called Apashudradikaranam in Adhyaya 1 Pada 3. So here, one who melts at another person's misery is said to be a Shudra. So the word dra means something which melts or is liquid. So here it simply means one who melts at another person's misery and feels for that person. So that is why no matter what one's varna is, the quality of Shudratva is actually important. That is why the varna which serves other people, the other members of all the other varnas, are said to be Shudras, because one can render service to someone only when one feels for them, or one can understand their suffering. And the next one is tapas. So tapas is the quality of meditation, or not simply meditation, but it also involves all the actions done to practice bhakti and for achieving Bhagavad Prapti. So tapas simply doesn't mean going to a forest and meditating, or leading the life of a vanaprastha. Tapas can include all the actions which we perform if done correctly, with the intention of propitiating Bhagavan as the ultimate goal. So, and again, as said in the Bhagavad Gita also, the Lakshana of a Satvika person is to remain unattached to the results of one's actions, and not to get attached to the action or whatever they do, but to remember that they're doing it for the sake of Bhagavan. And the next one is Shaucham, that is cleanliness. So here Shaucha refers to both internal and external purity. So Sri Devendra Tirtharu, who was an Aparoksha Jnani of our times, of the recent century, had once stated that there are two kinds of people. One category who believes that internal purity is very important, and another category who believes that external purity is more important. So he stated both of them are actually murkas. both of them are foolish because both are wrong. Actually, both external and internal purity are important. The purity of the mind is more slightly more important, but even the external purity is vital for one to actually be considered as a sattvic person and to maintain a healthy and sattvika lifestyle. So without proper maintenance of one's body and without living properly, it is actually not possible for them to progress spiritually also. So that's why both external and internal purity are important. And the next quality is titisheksha. So this is basically the tolerance towards other things and the and knowing what is good and bad. It is actually a combination of two words. So titiksha means tolerance. So here tolerance is, as said in the Bhagavad Gita's 18th Adhyaya also, it is mainly the way in which one is unaffected by both success and failure and should remain neutral as neutral as possible. One should not get too overwhelmed or overjoyed or sorrowful by the results of one's actions, and that's why these are also important qualities. So here this is one quality which may be hard to develop, but this is very much necessary for leading a proper life and for also to progress spiritually and to perform one's sadhana correctly. Then shama is the next quality, which is control of the mind. So in the Bhagavad Gita's 6th Adhyaya, it is actually said that the mind is actually a friend for those who can control it, and it works as an enemy for those who have not gained control over it. So the mind is constantly under the influence of the material world and under the influence of Prakriti especially. So this is how Prabhava plays a role here. And because of the Prakritika gunas and all the influences which are both positive and negative coming from everyone else, one can deviate from their true duties and what they're supposed to achieve. So this is why control of the mind is also very important. And so for practicing all these dharmas, ultimately Bhagwan's grace is also necessary, which is why we practice bhakti and perform different types of rituals and chant his names so that we can achieve that to whatever extent we can. Then ahimsa is another quality which is also vital, and this quality has also been stressed upon in the Shastras multiple times. So in the Mahabharata, there is a repeated glorification of ahimsa by Bhishma. So he says ahimsa paramo dharmaha, ahimsa paramo damaha, and he gives a long explanation why ahimsa is a very important quality, that is not causing harm to other beings. So has anyone here heard of this shloka from the same part of the Mahabharata, which says that ahimsa paramo dharmaha dharma himsa tathaiva cha, which means that ahimsa is the highest dharma, but dharma is himsa as well. Has anyone heard of this?
This is not the authentic Shlok Bhrata, right?
Yes. So this has been popularized on the internet by many people, but this is nowhere found in the Mahabharata, and this also contradicts all the other Shastras. So the fact is that the actual shloka of the Mahabharata is stated by Bhishma, which says ahimsa paramo dharmaha, ahimsa paramo damaha, and it continues with a few more statements praising ahimsa. So ahimsa is actually, himsa means violence or unnecessary harm to other beings. Now ahimsa is just avoiding that. So here ahimsa has to be practiced in all ways, in all sorts of ways in which one could be otherwise harming other beings. Now there is some harm to other beings which is done even by simple things such as us staying alive or breathing or eating. So for this is why, as explained by Guruji also, our contribution to the Jagat Chakra is very important and plays a key role here. So if you see the plants, the benefit which they cause to other beings is maximum, and the harm which they cause is the minimum. they do not cause much harm to any beings at all, and they provide maximum benefits to all sorts of beings. And again, it doesn't matter whether that person wants to harm it in return or wants to benefit it. So a plant is forced to do that. That's why people who are very great papis are also sometimes born as plants. If at all they have caused more harm to other beings and they have to repent for that, they're reborn as plants, so that they have to do the same for other beings, where they have to benefit others more. So similarly, this is why one should also consume only satvika food, because if consuming food items such as meat or other tamasika items will cause more harm and killing of other beings. And already human beings have been given the greatest opportunities. That is, first of all, by having the intellect to discriminate between right and wrong, and to know what one's purpose is, and that one should actually practice Bhagavad Bhakti. But the lower beings do not have all these capabilities, and nonetheless they still have a greater contribution in the Jagat Chakra. Now coming to the animals also, even the animals also, other than which are not primates, are they are also free from the effects of papa and punya, and they ultimately commit more punya karmas, which is why they get an elevated birth in their next life. So they also do not cause much harm to other beings, but they still have an equal amount of benefit which they perform. So this applies to every single species. And this is also one reason why certain vratas such as Chaturmasya vratas are practiced. And there is actually one video of Sri Vishwadiraja Tirtha Swamiji on YouTube, where he gives a very elaborate explanation on this matter. So we will share that in our Telegram group soon, and those who are interested can watch that. So human beings have this capability of discriminating between what is right, what is wrong, and knowing how our actions will affect others. The other beings do not have that capacity to think of it in this manner. That is why we have a greater responsibility to indulge in ahimsa and to prevent the harm that we are causing, and to have a greater contribution in the Jagat Chakra, so that we can be beneficial to other beings rather than causing harm to them. So that is why one should again try to practice it as much as they can in all actions, starting from having a satvika lifestyle and not unnecessarily harming other beings, or being motivated by selfish goals, and by also having satvika food. Now there is a category of certain people also who think that just because they are vegetarians or they have satvika food, they are ahimsavadis and all others are himsavadis. That is also a narrow-minded mentality, as said by Sri Bannanjay Govindacharya himself, because by doing that, they are developing ego and ahankara, and they are actually indulging in himsa against other beings by discriminating them and hating them. So that is also not the lakshana of a satvika person, and that cannot be considered as ahimsa. And the next adharma is brahmacharya. So this is important because many people think that brahmacharya means being unmarried. That is not the actual meaning of brahmacharya, because brahmacharya means practicing the path of Brahman. So that is what the true meaning of brahmacharya. Yes, any queries?
So, brother, if the person is eating non-veg, so we should not even hate them for eating non-veg.
Could you repeat?
Like you said, we should not hate them for eating non-veg. So, if a person is eating non-veg, we should not like dislike them and hate them.
Definitely not. Hatred is the lakshana of a tamasika. One shouldn't have hatred against anyone, for that matter. Hatred is motivated by anger and jealousy, or such things which are lakshanas of tamuguna. We should explain why one should have a satvika lifestyle, and we should not hate anyone, because if that is done, then that will only lead to more violence, and that is again himsa.
Okay, brother.
See, if suppose you have a person who is due to the influence of today's lifestyle is very much into, especially even many of the dvijas are also now into this kind of thing. So if you tell them that if you show narrow-minded behavior towards them, they will definitely not like to become satvika, and they will get this idea that that the so-called spiritual people are all narrow-minded and they simply show hatred. So that will again take them away from spirituality.
Yes, Bharata. True.
That's what Sri Bananjay Govindacharya also highlighted. Just because, and this is having a satvika diet is just one part of ahimsa. The total ahimsa is by not causing harm to others with the body, mind, or thoughts also, or even with one's words also. So the next part is brahmacharya. So brahmacharya means staying on the path of Brahman. That is following the duties which are necessary for the protocols which are necessary for properly practicing one's sadhana. So this is actually one of the yamas or the restrictions mentioned in the Vishnu Purana, that is abstaining from all other external influences and pleasure to the senses. So here, brahmacharya is not something exclusive to dvijas or only men in general. It is supposed to be practiced by everyone, as said in the Bhagavata Purana also. So brahmacharya is supposed to be followed by everyone, and it doesn't mean that person should be unmarried or anything as such, because even those who get married and lead the life of a grihastha are also said to be brahmacharis if they properly remain detached from the sense gratification and unnecessary indulgence in lust or satisfying the lust of their spouse also. So that is this is also an important lakshana of a Vaishnava, and those who do not practice brahmacharya are not totally fit to be called Vaishnavas. So this is again said in the Vishnu Dharmottara Purana. And the next ones are Tyaga, Swadhyaya, and Arjavam. So we shall discuss these and the rest in the subsequent session next week. And we shall end here for today as we have crossed the time. So any queries so far?
Yes, brother. Like you explained the Satya part. So in court, a person has to keep his hand on Bhagavad Gita and take the oath that he will speak truth only. So still, if a person speaks lie to save the innocent one, will he get the sin since he took false oath of Bhagavad Gita?
Definitely not. That again doesn't count as anrita or dishonesty, because here the objective and the intention is to practice dharma only. So that doesn't qualify as adharma.
Okay, brother. And one more thing, that I've given the test and submitted as well. So now I'm having some doubts. So shall I ask now or in DM, since many of the people didn't give the test here yet?
We'll discuss the questions in the quiz next week during the session itself.
Okay, brother. Thank you.
Pradnya, one question. So you mentioned that animals acquire punya and papa. So, for example, if a lion kills a person or
They
something,
do not
will
acquire
they?
punya and papa. That's what I meant.
Oh, they do not acquire punya and papa.
Yes, they are free from all those influences.
Okay, so like the life, whatever lifespan they have, it's just basically prarabdha. That's all.
Yes, I mean, in the sense it doesn't qualify as prarabdha karmas also. They get that life because of prarabdhas, but subsequently they get elevated because they perform slightly more punyas than papa karmas also, and they're, first of all, they're unaffected by it, but their contribution to the Jagat Chakra is greater, so that counts as a punya karma, and they do not intentionally indulge in harming others, and they do not have that intellectual capacity also, so their papa does not count as such.
Oh, okay, got it.
Brother, next test will be held when, after how many months?
We haven't planned that yet. We'll speak with Guruji, and we'll subsequently inform a few days before the next quiz. So whatever content will be there will be from whatever is discussed in these sessions only.
Okay, so it would be beneficial if you could provide the syllabus as early as possible.
It won't be very different from all this. It will just have slightly more additional things which we are discussing now. and in the subsequent classes, but most of it remains pretty much the same because especially those 3 adhyayas of the Vishnu Purana 6th Amsha which we mentioned covers most of it, and they are quite elaborate. So in the when the subsequent quizzes will be planned, we will announce in advance also when they will be held. The last one will be held towards the end of the course, that is sometime this August or September.
Okay, Bharat.
Where can we get Harinama Diksha from Tattvavaada Guru? You can visit any Madhva Mata near you, and preferably get it from the Peethadhipati of the Mata. So if you can come to Udupi or to or if you can visit Vyasaraja Mata in Mysuru or Bengaluru, also there you can receive it directly. If you can contact someone you know there and request for Mantropadesha to be arranged, or there are certain dates when especially during certain Ekadashis where the Peethadhipatis of those matas will visit certain branches of the matas and will be giving Upadesha of mantras. So at that time also one can ask for Upadesha or receive it at that time. But for some of them, for some of these, fasting on Ekadashi is necessary if it's usually done on an Ekadashi. I hope that makes it clear. Any further queries? So if there are no more queries, we could end the session for today, and we'll have the next session next week. Shubharatri, Shri Krishnarpnamastu. Achyutaya Namaha, Anantaya Namaha, Govindaya Namaha. Achyutantam Vindebhyo Namaha.
Hare